All right. Welcome, Christian, to the second episode of the Financial Chance podcast. So, today we're going to talk about Mexican immigrants in the United States. So, introduce yourself, give us a little background on who you are and your background on where you grew up, your family, etc.
Okay, so my name is Christian, obviously. I'm 26 years old. I am currently living in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and I'm a private investigator. I actually went to school for computer science, but then ended up dropping out. But now I'm
Okay.
a private investigator. My background, I come from two Mexican immigrant parents. They're from Puebla, Mexico. They came to the United States, I believe in 1990, and then I was born 4 years later, and they moved to Sunset, and since then we haven't moved from here. This is where we've stayed.
Okay. So, your parents are immigrants.
Yes,
Where
correct.
were they? Did they come here legally or did they illegally come to the United States?
They came illegally, so they crossed the border and everything. They paid a coyote, uh, they paid like around 10 G's, $10,000 to come over. Um, and they came straight to New York.
What is a coyote? Just so that the people could understand what that is.
So a coyote is someone who basically you pay them and they have like a secret route, like to bring immigrants to the United States, and you just pay them 10 grand. Um, they're responsible for getting you here. And I believe they first arrive in Arizona, and then from there they with the $10,000 that covers your flight, and they'll like send you over to like whatever state you're gonna go to. But depending like how risky it is, they'll either just get like a private van, and then they just take you to your destination.
So if that's the name that you guys gave these people, the coyote, why was it so offensive when Trump said it?
So that's the funny thing. So yeah, so that's the name we gave the this person whose job is to like transport, bring immigrants over by paying them, and that's the name we gave them, Coyote.
Mhm.
But like like media, like mainstream media, what they do, they're just trying to separate us and make everything a racial thing and offend it, but it doesn't offend us. Like that's literally the name that we gave them. So
Okay, so it's the American people who don't know anything and they're judging Trump based off
yeah,
of.
they don't know anything, and it's just like them just trying to make us feel oppressed or like offended by what he said, but it's not really like an offensive word because that word's been used for so many years, like even before me and you were born, like it goes way back. Like that's just the
Okay.
name that we gave those people.
So you mentioned oppression, and your family came here illegally at first. Did your parents know English?
No, so they came here when they were like I believe my mom was 19 and my father was 21. They came here without knowing any English, and they basically were homeless for like about 2 to 3 years. So when they came to this country, obviously they didn't know any English, or they couldn't get like a job or anything. So what they did was that they just kept like looking. They would read the newspaper because back in the day you could find jobs on the newspaper, and there would be some sections where it would be like, oh, we need a cocinero, which means like the cook, or like
Uh-huh.
something construction. So they knew those words, and they're like, you know what, let's go, let's see what we could get. And that's what they did. So they would just like go through newspaper, see whatever they could find. They would save up, and because they were like homeless and because they didn't speak English, they lived like in a type of housing. I don't know what the correct term was back in the day, but it was like housing. And they just basically they just learned along the way, like the basic English, like, hey, how are you? How when you learn Spanish, hola, cómo estás? But in English, hey, how are you?
Mhm.
Asking for directions. And that's basically how they did it. And until this day, their English got way better now. Their English is way better, but they're not fluent with it. Like they don't know how to write it. But um, yeah, that's
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of this because I mean, I am your best friend, but I am learning a ton about your life as well because some of these questions I don't bring up because I don't know how offensive it would be to you. Obviously, You know, people get offended nowadays as much as they want to. So you got to be really careful, especially now in this podcast specifically. I hope no one gets offended. But you spoke about oppression. And in America, as someone who came in illegally and now achieving the American dream, would you say your parents are successful, and would you say that you are oppressed?
Okay, they are successful in their own way. I feel like success, there's really no standard, there's no really bar to success. I view them as successful, and I actually use my parents as motivation to like, work hard and like achieve my goals, because if they were able to come to this country not knowing English, and right now, as of current, my father is a manager at a sheet metal company. I know for sheet metal work, they require like a GED or like a high school diploma or some form of college, because you're dealing with like machines and measurements, and like, they do work for the Empire State Building. But now my father's like the manager there. And that was just through like a lot of hard work. And like, he actually like studied by himself, like whenever he had time. So he became successful in that way. Now my mom, she never really took on a position like that, but she is successful in her way because she supported my father, like money wise, like saving wise. So she would always take care of me and my sister. Like she would try not to pay for like, a daycare. At the beginning they did, because it was very hard for them to get a job and like pay for rent, because they didn't know much English and they didn't have any money saved up. But
Mhm.
now currently, like she took the role of a housewife, and she brought us up, she raised us, she managed the money, like trying to save up as much as possible, not trying to make my dad, spend much money, like outside of whatever we didn't need, like clothes wise, like food wise. And in that way, I could say she's successful because she played the role that she was supposed to. And because of that, now my father and my mother were able to buy like a lot of property in Mexico. They own like, I think, over 10 properties over there in terms of land. They built a really nice house. I've shown you pictures. And yeah, I mean, they were successful. They were able to accomplish so much with not knowing, the English language. And it was all like work ethic, saving up, which is something that's very important that a lot of people don't do anymore, save up. Because I remember you told me this once, that it doesn't matter, how much money you make. It matters how much you save up, and how you manage it and invest it. And they were really good at that. So they're successful in that way, and we don't feel oppressed. I feel like oppression is just an excuse to not like be successful, because when you feel expressed, when you give too much attention to these things that are supposed to make you oppressed, then you just you always find excuses for not giving the extra hard work, for not like pushing yourself. So we don't feel oppressed. We feel like this country is great. It's the land of opportunity. That's why they all come here. So I don't know why they come here, and then they're trying to change everything. Like, like you left the country where you were coming, were like Mexico or like any other third world country. You left for a reason. Why? Because they don't have the same opportunities here. Here in the United States, there's free education. And that's like already a big plus. Why? Because in Mexico, you got to pay for education, since like preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, you always got to pay. And they treat it like if as if you were going to college. So you got to pay for every semester over there. And with the wages over there, they can't afford it. So a lot of times these kids don't get the proper education over there. So they come here, and that's already a plus. So why? Because education is free, and you could literally be whoever you want to be. Like you could start a business here. Over there, to start a business is like nearly impossible. Why? Because they want you to have an education, and you need to have the money for it. And if you're living like in a village, like where my parents came from, it's really hard to get to that point where you have enough capital, enough money to like actually start a business or even education. Why? Because you can't even start education if your parents don't have the money to pay for every semester.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, that's
So
basically.
technically speaking, would you say that financially you grew up in a single parent household, financially speaking, since you said your mom never worked,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So she did work at the beginning, but then after that, she took the complete role of a mother, like to raise us the proper way. And after that, she after once I was old enough, once I was like 10 or 12, that's when she was like, you know what, he's able to go home by himself now. I could teach him how to get home by himself. I should actually start working like a night job or a morning job when he's in school or when he's home with his father, so we could have more money, you know.
Okay.
And after that, once she taught me, the morals, like, oh, don't talk to strangers, like how to get home safely. She even taught me how to use, the street phones. Like, here's some quarters in case anything comes up, you just call me. So once
Uh-huh.
she felt like she had done the job, that where she could, like, sway away from the role of a mother and actually start helping my father out, that's when she took, she started working. And until this day, she still works. She's currently house cleaning. She does it mostly for Jewish people and some
Okay.
people in the city in Manhattan. But yeah, she's still working.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that's very impressive. I mean, your dad doesn't speak English. Now he's a manager. I mean, he does speak a little English because I've
Yeah,
spoken to
now
him.
he does it.
But I mean, I would still say that it isn't like the craziest English someone could experience in America, but he has risen to the ranks of a manager in a company. And this was from speaking no English at all. And your mom, she's currently working and she doesn't speak English. And
Right.
your dad's English is way better than your mom.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? I mean, in America, a lot of people claim they can't find a job, and that certain things hold them back from having a job. Your story, I think it's a perfect example that anyone can make it. I mean, I was eating at a restaurant the other day, a Korean restaurant, and the waiter was Mexican, and he didn't know any English at all because we were trying to tell him like, where's the appetizers or whatever, and he did not know a single word completely, and he had a job. So my thing, within this year is to stop entitlement as to how people could say they can't find a job. So what do you think about that and about the current situation in America? I mean, you said that America is a great country. Why do you think so?
Like I mentioned before, it's a great country because if it wasn't great, then people wouldn't be coming here in the first place. People wouldn't be trying to escape, the foreign country, like, leaving their country. And also because this is the land of the opportunity where you could basically um, be whatever you want to be, learn whatever you want to learn. You're not education is basically free over here. You have the internet uh, and also about people not finding jobs. I feel like I used to think that way um, when I was like younger, but now that I've matured, and I've been through also several jobs, and my parents, like, the way they were, the way they were brought up, and like, because my dad was never just like a sheet metal worker. He started off as in a bagel shop, in a coffee shop,
Okay, that's where
not
we
knowing.
started.
And yeah, that's how we started too. But he started there, and again, he didn't know any English, but all he did is just, like, lava platos, like, there's other ways to communicate, even if you don't know the language. I guess he came up to the boss and was like, dishes, right?
Yeah.
So the guy was like, you know what? All right, I'll pay you very little. He's like, all right, I'll take the job. So there's always other, like, a lot of people don't want to take these jobs that pay minimum wage, but we all got to start from somewhere. I feel like there's always work. There's never like a time when there hasn't been any work. So people who say, oh, I can't find a job, I sometimes those are just excuses, because we all got to start from somewhere. Like, right now, my dad is looked up to, like, his coworkers look up to him, like, oh, like, he's like a manager now, and like, the fuck, like, he had education, but they don't know, like, the path he took to get to that point. And that path helped him, like, improve his English, like, learn a little more, because he went from dishwasher at a coffee shop in Sunset to, like, actually making the donuts. And then from there, he worked at a Sleepy's where he had to learn a little bit of customer service. And because his English wasn't, the best, so he will always get, probably laughed at, or, like, criticized, like, oh, fire this guy because he don't know English. But he always try to find a way to communicate with people. So again, like, he went through multiple jobs. My mom went through multiple jobs. She did sewing machine in factories. Then she did house cleaning. Man, well, that's only two jobs. So, you know, but and now you have these agencies, like, you could go to them, you pay them like I believe you pay them like a $60 fee, and they could get you any job. That's
Mhm.
where I got my coffee shop job, or the one I had prior to, being an investigator. Um, you just go and you pay for it, and they'll just continue looking for a job until they get you one. So there's never really a time that there's never a job in. And whatever job comes up, if you really need to work and if you really need money, you're gonna do whatever job comes up to you, because we all gotta start from somewhere. So,
Okay.
and you just gotta learn to save up.
So why do you think you were able to find a job and other people weren't able to find a job? Are they racist or?
No, I mean, I actually tried applying to all these, like Old Navy, Target, and Atlantic, but I always got rejected. And
You
the
think they
reason
were
why,
racist to you?
I don't think they were racist. I just think that maybe it wasn't the right time. I always think like everything happens like, I believe that everything happens for a reason. So maybe having that job wasn't, the right thing for me, especially because it was a little farther from me. But the reason why I think I was able to find a job is because I never stopped looking for it. And I think that also comes back to, again, I have to use my parents as an example, because when they raised me, they always said, like, once you reach high school, you got to look for a job. Like, as much as we love you and everything, but you got to start paying for bills and you got to start paying
Mhm.
for rent. So at a young age, I was already like being responsible for my, light bills, gas bills. So they were like, you got to look for a job. And once college was getting close, they were like, you know what, college is getting close. You got to, find a full-time job now, because college is expensive. Now, I know they were able to pay for it. Like I know how much they make, and I know they could afford it, because I went to a CUNY school, so that's like what, like 4 grand like every semester. So I know they were able to afford it, but I think it was just the way they were brought up, that you always got to work for yourself, that they
Oh
were like, you
yeah.
know what, like we could afford it, and we weren't getting like I wasn't getting really much any financial aid. I was only getting like probably like $500 to $1,000 per semester. So the rest of it I had to cover with whatever I made in the coffee shop. And they were the ones who were like, you know what, if you want to study, if you want to learn, if you want to like graduate, you got to work and pay for these things, because they're expensive. You have your little sister; she's also growing up, and she, you have to spend more on her too. Like we have to invest in her. So you're old enough to go and get a job. So do that. So I think that's what pushed me to keep looking and not stop looking until I finally got a job. And you know, I think that's
So
the reason,
you,
because I just never stopped looking, because they always push me for that. Like things are starting to get expensive. Your Metro card, your books, college tuition. So you better start looking for a job. And if you want a phone, we're not gonna pay for it. Like you gotta look for it. You gotta pay for it yourself. So
so you don't think the job the employer just looked at your application and saw Rivera and he's like, no, I'm not hiring this guy.
nah, of course not.
So why do you think that currently so much people think, well, why do you think that people claim they can't have a job and like it's so hard to find one? Because Mexicans are some of the most hardworking people. I mean, I see them when I used to do construction, I see them like waiting on the corners, looking to get
Mm.
picked up. And these people will get paid, from 80 to $100 a day. And I think that's pretty good, talking in terms of cash. So
Yeah, and
when
oh, and adding on to that, what you're saying, sorry to interrupt you, but
Mhm.
adding on to that, like a lot of people don't know that these, not just Mexicans, but like, Hispanics in general, they go to these stops and they wait for hours just for a
Yeah,
van to pick them up, just so they could work like for at
if
least like if they get picked up.
yeah,
Exactly. So if they don't get picked up, I've seen them with my own eyes that they literally go to a different stop. I don't know how they know where these stops are located at, but they will go to a different stop and then just stand there for another like 2 to 3
yeah,
hours until they get picked up. And if they don't get anything like in the whole day, they just, like, all right, you know what, I'll try again tomorrow. But they're just there every single day,
yeah,
like
no,
just trying to get it,
I see
just
it,
trying to get,
and that's why I
yeah.
don't understand when people say they can't find a job. I mean, I didn't see you standing on the corner looking for a job, and then like they don't give up; they just stand there, or they'll find something else to do, and that's why I think it's so hypocritical for Americans to say it's hard. One, it's hard to find a job. Meanwhile, you have people who don't speak English capable of finding a job, or even rising to the ranks of a manager and learning English throughout the whole process. So
Right.
I personally believe it's people are speaking out of ignorance, but uh you know what do you think about, I mean, like things we're saying right now could be offensive to a lot of people. So what do you think about America now and how people are able to communicate? Is there communication?
I think there's been a big disconnect with society as a whole, and I think that's why people are like talking more about racism, and like they feel like we're oppressed, and like they feel like society's against us, and it's just an excuse not to work, and not because before phones, before social media, people were like minding their own businesses, just working hard to achieve whatever they want. But now we give so much attention to social media, and like you hear this happening, and then you hear this part some other situation happening somewhere else, and then the media tells you, oh, it was because the media even labels it to make you feel oppressed, to make you feel like it's a racial issue. Like, why can't the media, like on the newspaper, just say, oh, it was between two male individuals or two female individuals, but they got to say, oh, a black person
Oh
or a
yeah.
Hispanic. So they always labeling, and these labels is what is like causing this like disconnect and separation, thinking that one race or one ethnicity is superior to the other because, oh, it's happening only to this one. No, it happens to every single one of them. We just never get the whole picture, and I feel that's why I don't even watch TV anymore. I just feel TV is toxic.
I mean, I'm
And
labeling this video, this podcast, something to do with Mexican. Is that okay with you?
yeah, I mean, that's totally okay with me. Um,
Do you
but
think I'm racist?
I don't think you're racist.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, so talking about this topic, do you think we're causing more, we're trying to promote unity, but I feel like it's causing more of a divide. So what do you think about this whole situation with this whole race thing actually? I mean, you're Mexican. Do you look at yourself as a minority?
Or-
No?
No,
Why is that? Because by textbook definition, apparently you're a minority. You're
like again, I
inferior to
said
people.
that, like I said, that's just a label that was given to whoever is running this media, because once you put a label on someone, then you make them feel that they need to find excuses, they need to find reasons to not work hard and everything. Like, if I remember, like back in the day, people weren't like putting out excuses that much as of today, and it's just like by placing the label minority, it just makes you think that you're lesser than the rest, and that's not the truth. That's not the case, because we all have access to the same things, the same education, the same schools.
But you
It's
guys
just a
didn't have
matter.
access. You guys didn't have access to public assistance. So
Right, yeah. And but like sorry, I lost my
no,
track
so
of thought.
you guys never had access to public assistance, yet we have people in public assistance complaining that there's white, well, first of all, what do you think about, I mean, white privilege? I mean, that's a sensitive topic, but I guess something we have to touch on. But besides that, about the working thing, you guys never got public assistance. Somehow you guys made it out of the poverty level, right? I mean, you started here with nothing,
Yeah,
I don't even know what you brought from Mexico here, and then you were homeless at one point, not speaking
right.
English and homeless. So, and never got, and you've never gotten public assistance from the government.
No.
You have people in America on public assistance, and they're saying that they don't have enough benefits, and that everyone is oppressed, and we need more rights, more stimulus, more, I mean, obviously Corona, we do need stimulus, for some people, because it's a necessity since they're out of a job. I mean, if you're going to take away jobs, you might as well give them something back. But public assistance, I don't get it. I mean, people are in there for 20, 30 years, but look at you. Your family never got public assistance. You guys came with nothing in Mexico. why do you think America is so set that they're underprivileged and that these things aren't enough when you obviously you're the definition to show that it is enough? Why do you think that is the case? I don't get it.
Mm, I don't get it either, dude. I don't get I don't get why so much, public assistance. Well, actually, my parents, they actually tried to apply because, like I said, when they came here, they were homeless, and they actually tried applying for public assistance because they just were very desperate, like homeless, not having any money, not knowing anything about this country, especially the language, speaking English. But they got rejected, and I spoke to them one time about this, and they told me it was actually a blessing that they got rejected because them getting rejected and never receiving any public assistance, they just have this work ethic and mentality that anything is possible. You could achieve anything. There's no need for any public assistance. Once you get public assistance, then you always become lazy. That's just literally what happens. And we saw it now, especially with my parents from now during the pandemic with this, this whole COVID thing. They have some friends that are actually on, like on food stamps and all this kind of stuff, all these, benefits. And now that they actually don't have their job and now they're getting their, um, for some reason they lost all these benefits. I don't know the real reason behind why they lost it, but now they're like, oh my God, like I didn't save up any money, like I don't have any more food stamps. Like they're literally looking at food stamps and these things as their savior. Like, oh, I really need it because now I can't afford it. What were you doing with the money throughout this whole year? Like you weren't saving. And these are people who are wearing expensive clothing, Jordans. They're wearing what's that brand with the logo here, Canadian Goose?
Yeah, Canada Goose. Yep.
They're wearing expensive ass clothes and collecting food stamps and living in housing because they do live in housing. These friends from my parents, and now they're complaining like, oh, we don't have any food stamps. What the fuck is going on? Like, and we're like, yeah, it's because they just get so used to and accustomed to these benefits that they become lazy because they don't feel like they got to work hard enough or like work more for whatever they want. So because my parents never went on like any of these assistance, and they never plan to, you know they they just have this work ethic, and they
Okay.
don't they see that this is the reason why also a lot of people have become more lazy. A lot of people are more like, what everything that's going on in this country, they blame it on the assistance because it costs a lot of separation and division that oh, why are people complaining that there isn't enough, more assistance? Like we're in poverty, but come on, like there's immigrant parents, immigrant families who came here with nothing. They couldn't apply for any
Yeah, you
assistance.
guys.
Yeah, and they managed to, have decent jobs, be somewhat successful in their own way, and they don't complain. Like they're happy.
Yeah, no, because
So
I would. Go ahead.
so these assistances, welfare, food stamps, it's just it just makes people lazier. Like for example, like when you want a car, like when I wanted my first car, the car that I currently own, I wanted it so bad, but my parents never were like, you know what, I'm gonna buy you the car, or I'm gonna like help you get it, or I'm gonna pay. They're like, nope, save up enough money. Once you could pay off, once you see that you could pay off for the car and this, then and you could support for food and everything for yourself, then you get the car. Then you're ready to get the car. And also stop buying expensive clothes because I used to buy expensive clothes. I used to be buying from like Nike, Hollister, Jordans all the time. Now I don't even buy any of that stuff because I mean now I actually do. I treat myself every now and then because now I have the money. I actually make decent money to actually afford these things. But when I was like being raised, they were like, you know what, you gotta cut these things off just for you to, get what you want and get to where you want to be. But because all these assistants are here, it's just made it so much easier for the people to afford these things, and they don't value like what they have, and they just want more. And when all these assistants get removed for them, then they just feel like, desperate. And then when they hear in the media, oh, because they're minorities, then they're like, oh man, I feel oppressed now. Meanwhile, you were buying all these expensive ass things like Jordans and like expensive jackets and going drinking out at night like every weekend, like, man, just spending your money like stupid. So what the hell, like, So I
I
feel like it's
agree.
just
I agree. I mean, I used to be on I don't know if you know, but I used to be on food stamps. Do you remember that?
yeah, you spoke
Okay,
to me.
yeah. Well, yeah, I used to be on food stamps, and I had the Obama phone. My first phone was when I was in college. So,
Oh, I
oh wait, no,
remember the
high
bomb
school.
phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe high school, maybe last year of high school. But yeah, I've never had a phone. I mean, and look at you. I mean, you got a car, and I was actually arguing with someone on Facebook about the car. So, do you think, now that I'm able to say whatever I want to say, because I quit my job, but what what do you think a car is? Is it a luxury or is it it's a necessity? Because the person I was arguing with said it was a necessity. What do you think about that?
It's for the most part is a luxury because the only reason I wanted a car was just because I just want to be, that next cool kid who has a car. And that was probably, even though I got to the point where I was able to meet my monthly payments and like the insurance, it was the probably one of the dumbest mistakes I ever made because why did I really need a car for? Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really need it. There's so much transportation and it's cheap. You just pay $2.50 when I was like what, like 275. But I never needed a car. I just wanted to feel cool. Same thing with that thing about the mentality of getting the most recent iPhone, the most recent clothes, the most recent jacket, expensive brands. You just want to feel cool. But for what if you don't even have the money? Like is the dumbest mistakes you can make as growing up as a teenager and a college student because there's really no necessity for these things. These are all luxuries when you have this transport. Now my car is actually a necessity. Now I've reached the point it's a necessity. Why? Because I need my car for my job. I need to drive around all over the place. So now it's a necessity. So now it's not really like a luxury, it's a necessity. But back then, before I even got this job, it was all just a luxury. And it was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever financial
Just
choices I've made.
just to explain it to the people listening, why is your car a necessity because of your job?
Because as a private investigator, I have to, do
Okay,
surveillance on people. I gotta
okay.
follow them. Yeah.
So when I was arguing with this person on Facebook, she told me that a car is a necessity because she said, quote unquote, how do you think I am going to go grocery shopping, and how do you think I'm going to get to my like doctor's appointments, etc.? What is your response to that? Because
Okay.
she's from New York City and you're from New York City. So how did you do your grocery shopping, and why does she need a car in your perspective? I mean, we should try to understand her perspective, but try to understand her, but at the same time give your reasoning as to she needs this car to go shopping and to go to these doctor appointments, etc. So what is your perspective on that?
But she don't need it. It's like I said, there's public transportation and it's only a luxury. If you don't need it, don't buy it. And and in regards to the shopping and going to doctor appointments, I don't know if I ever spoke to you about this, but my mom, when she gave birth to my sister, it was all the way in the Bronx, and she for because she was registered to a Bronx hospital, she had to go to those appointments every like I would say like once a month. Um, I don't want to get too much into
Okay.
the subject because
Uh-huh.
it's kind of personal, but
Okay.
there's a reason why she was going there every like once a month there. And the Bronx is it's really fucking far away. It
Yeah.
from where we live to the Bronx to that hospital, which I don't remember the name of it. It was probably like 2 hours and a half away.
Yeah.
She will go with the stroller and take my sister to her appointments every month, to go on the train during, whether it be winter time with snowstorms and everything. Well, if it was a snowstorm, obviously she's gonna take the cab, she would
Hmm.
just pay for it. But like any other than that, she would just take the train. And it would take her like 2 hours and a half. and then another 2 hours and a half to come back. And it's like she never was like, oh, I need a car. Like, no, she just took the train. And she went to those appointments because it was for my sister, but she was a little baby, so she needed to get her to the doctor. She was never like complaining, oh, it's too far away or anything. She always wanted to do it because it's her daughter. And same thing for like before I even, well, now that I have the car, they don't have to walk with the little cart, to do their grocery shopping, because I actually asked them, hey, when are you guys gonna go shopping? Like, to buy a lot of stuff so I could help you out and bring the stuff over. Before I even got a car, they would just take the bus and they would go in their car or just walk. They were willing to walk like probably like over 20 blocks or like in like 3 avenues just to go grocery shopping. And
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it's tiring sometimes, but they would just take small breaks, like, oh, okay, I'm tired. And, just take a little break and then you keep going.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's what they
That,
did. They never, they always thought, like I said, people spend money on stuff that, it's kind of stupid, and there's other ways to go around these things without spending so much money. Like they had a friend who she will always go from the Sea Town and 46th Street to her house in 40th Street. She will always take a cab just for 6 blocks. And my parents were like, "Why are you taking a cab? That extra $7, $8, you could save it up for a meal, or whatever. Like if you save up $8 every time you go to the grocery shopping, $8 every week. That's what, like $40 a month. That's already enough to buy like a big order of like like a lot of food supplies. So they always they avoided taking cabs, and they would always just walk to the store, take their little cart, and put everything, take turns pushing the cart, and take
yeah.
breaks whenever you got tired. So about that girl who said that it's a necessity, it's really not. I mean, there's
I
always ways to go around that. You could just take the bus or take the train. And dude, well, I don't know, back then, I think elevators were always installed in subways, right? Or something like that.
I think well, for the duration that I was alive, elevators were existent. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, we just take the elevator from the subway, or
Yeah, but
like,
the girl, I mean, she's the same age as us, and I just thought it was funny that she says it's a necessity because like you said, my mom used to buy grocery stores. I mean, she had like some sort of strain or some ligament tear because she was carrying a lot of groceries and stuff like that, and then
right.
something around here or the hand, but um,
Hmm.
I my mom and dad didn't get a car. They wanted a car and they wanted to get a car for some time, but they never got it until pretty late. And then it was a cheap car. It wasn't like a new lease or whatever. And actually, it's funny because the guy I interviewed the other day, his car is $950, whereas some people decide to go for like a Lexus,
Yeah,
or freaking a high end car brand when it's not something they can afford. So, I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
you've spoken about what did you speak about? You've spoken about how these people aren't entitled to quote unquote the car, so it's not a necessity, and because she kind of referred it as her right, her right to have a car. So, what do you think about rights in today's society, about having the right to this or the right, because a lot of people like to say I am not, I wouldn't say entitled, they don't make it seem that way, they don't say I am entitled to public assistance, but I have the right to live a life of comfort
Mhm.
or something like that. So what do you think about rights in today's society? Because you said you could choose to do whatever you want, and that seems like it's the case with choosing what or doing whatever you want to do, because now you have people identifying as everything that they can identify with.
Mhm.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about rights and people identifying as whatever they want to identify as? Because that's a right. It's a right for them to identify as a female, a male, or the 64 other genders that there are within this world. I mean, do
Okay,
you guys have
so,
this in Mexico?
What
because the topic is like, a Mexican immigrant in the United States. I'm just curious as to know if in Mexico you guys have, 64 genders or something of that sort.
Oh, so we're going into a totally new topic now, right?
I guess, I mean, it's your experience as a Mexican immigrant in the United States. So I just
Mhm.
want to understand if in Mexico they have these sort of rights and privilege, because again, it ties back to privilege. And,
Right.
Mexicans coming to the United States don't feel like they're entitled to anything. They work for whatever they want. And, it doesn't seem to me that they think they're underprivileged. So privilege in Mexico and the United States is different. And obviously this identifying as, this or that, or her or he or we or they, it's a privilege, it's a right that is in the United States. So I'm just wondering if they have that in Mexico, and if they don't have it in Mexico, what you think about it in general.
They don't have it in Mexico, not that I'm aware of. Um, but I think I don't have an issue with these like people who just who identify as other genders or like whatever. My problem with it is that they're pushing it too much to the point where now it seems like we're obligated to like whatever they want now has to go. Like we're losing our basically um how would I say it? Well, just within the sports, how now you have all these, transgender people like who transition from male to female who are now like engaging in like female sports, and they feel like it's right. I feel like that's just totally wrong. Like if you want to do like, sport, then make a transgender sport like only for transgenders and let them fight over, if it's fair or not, but don't like come and try to push it into like something that's been established for years. And I just feel like that's what's going on. Like they're pushing it way too much, and that's where I don't like it anymore, because then it doesn't mean it's starting to separate itself from being whatever you want to be, because now you're just basically being whatever you want to be, but also shutting down other people, saying, "Oh, you better respect whatever my decisions." And that's kind of that's messed up, because like like for example, like I wanted a car, right? I didn't say to my parents, "Oh, I want this car," and I'm gonna say, "Well, but you better pay for my insurance," or like trying to drag them into this, like, and because I like saying, "Oh, but you gotta pay for insurance because I'm gonna drive you guys all around the place, and I'm gonna help you guys with the groceries. So you pay for my insurance," and like trying to drag them into your own issue, like something that you're getting yourself into. So with these transgender people and like these people like who are basically what they're basically doing is that they want to become this, they want to have the rights, but they're also dragging society as a whole and saying, "Oh, but you can't use these terms against me," when you've been raised the whole time to know that there's only two genders, there's a male and a female. So if you by accident call someone, by, a female term, and then they get offended, "Oh, why you call me that? Like I'm a transgender." And then they try to sue you, and like, well, that I feel like that's where society is going now. Like they're so offended now by whatever, term you use, the words you use against them. So I feel like that's where there's a disconnect, and I feel like that's where it's wrong, because now they're trying to drag you into the change that they want, but they also want to,
No, I
they
agree. So what you're trying to get at, and this is my point as well, is basically they think only their rights matter, because
yeah, yeah,
with the
exactly.
transgender, and I think it was like a run that they were participating in, the guy identifies as a girl, so he was able to win the race. So he's basically saying, you guys have to respect my gender, so I am a girl, but all the practice that you guys have done for this race, it's like, F you, and you guys got to deal with me because now I identify as a woman. But
Right.
then it's scientifically proven that men are more physically capable than a woman's body. So
Mhm.
bringing it back to rights and privilege, when do we say no, or when do we say stop? Like how would you go about this? And it's crazy because you can't. I feel like you can't solve it anymore. I mean, you're gonna hurt somebody. I mean, when I was a cop, people, you as a police officer, you have to frisk someone down or whatever the case might be, right? Pat them down. And there's rules
Right.
now that if they identify as a different gender, so if I arrest a male and he identifies as a female, now I can't, pat him down. If it's a safe condition, I can't pat him down to see if he has anything on him, and I have to wait for a female officer to come and pat the guy down because he identifies as a female. So how are we supposed to know if what he's saying is the truth, or is there some sort of standard or what? And this all ties back, I mean, as much as you think it doesn't tie back, it goes back to my rights over yours. So to public housing and all this public assistance, they're basically using taxpayers money to fund their living. So it's saying, because I think that I am underprivileged, or I think that I need more help, you guys got to help me, and your tax paying dollars goes to me and supporting my living, but I am not going to work, or I am not going to do this or that. So everything kind of ties together. I think right now it's more of a whose rights are more important, or if I have a certain right that I am entitled to, etc. Because so yeah, actually taking a quick break from this whole gender thing, going back to public housing and public assistance in general, how do you think it's fair for tax-paying people to pay for their living for years and years, so their rights are more important than people's rights? And aren't they in a way selfish in the fact that they're speaking about rights and everyone is entitled to this or that, but at the same time they're not working hard to get out of there, so they're using other people's money and not giving someone else who actually wants to work for their life to better themselves a chance at that specific you know
Right.
um privilege.
Okay. So basically, how do we solve this issue? Like,
Yeah, how do we solve it? And what do you think about the it's about me, because now it's just about me. It doesn't really matter about you. My feelings have to be honored, I have to be protected, and you can't hurt me. Like, if I feel like you offended me in any way because maybe something you said that I'm Chinese or whatever, and I feel offended,
mhm.
people get fired over things like this now. I mean, if you saw the
Yeah,
most recent,
it's
now going
crazy.
back to the gender thing with the Great Morning, I think it's Good Morning Britain or something like that. The guy
She got
decides to
fired.
identify. No, they were trying to fire him, and
Mm.
he said he wants to identify as a penguin today. Why is that? Why is that not okay? But you could identify as a woman. I mean, I get that it's not gender, but right now it's really about whatever you want to identify as. I mean, you feel like you're a woman, and I feel like I'm a penguin. So I mean, I know it's not a gender, but it's about what I feel. I feel like I am a penguin,
Mhm.
and they want to get him fired. So I think now it's just whatever I say, I'm right. And if you don't believe in me, I'm going to cancel you.
I mean, honestly, I feel like the best solution to all of this, if if there was a time machine, go back 20 years when before all of this, like started happening, and honestly, I feel like the best solution to also like stop this entitlement and like people who feel like it's all about them and like and all this is just honestly, it may sound cruel, but just cut them off from everything, because w- a person who is a necessity and there's no benefits and there's none of this, they're obviously going to go out there and try to work their ass off to
Yep.
not be, stuck in a slumber. And which is what my parents did. And because they got rejected, like they said, it was probably a blessing because now they have this work ethic that they don't feel like they ever need to depend from the government assistance or any sort of type of government assistance. Even when the stimulus checks came around, when stimulus were going out, they were like, They're like, like it's not a good thing because we have friends over here who don't qualify for a stimulus and they never stopped working. They lost their jobs, and I think I told you this the other day. Most of them were cooks. So what they started doing was that they started cooking from home and like selling to friends or like posted on Facebook like, oh, I'm selling food.
Hmm.
Today this week I'm selling torta sandwiches, Mexican sandwiches, tacos. Like they'll sell at a cheap price. People will buy and they'll deliver to them. Dude, one of the people that we know, he lives all the way in by Ocean Parkway. So this guy was selling sandwiches and tacos from home, and we bought from him. But this just comes to show you how work ethic and people who really want it like actually do it. Like this guy was willing to deliver the sandwiches and the tacos by walking all the way to Sunset Park or taking a taxi. And we're like, nah, dude, like we're trying to support you guys during this pandemic, so we're gonna buy from you, but we'll go get it. But this guy was like, no, 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 because he wanted to give like everyone good customer service. He was like, no, 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 like don't worry, we'll deliver it to you. Like we know it's far, but and it was because they needed it. They needed to pay for rent. They didn't qualify for stimulus. They didn't qualify for unemployment. So they just started selling from home, and they were willing to go out of their way, to walk for an hour or take a 30-minute cab drive just to come deliver the stuff. And even if they lost a lot of profit because the cab was probably going to charge them like what, like $15,
Hmm.
but they were willing to take that risk just to make those extra $5 in the day, or like, they were willing to do all of that. And obviously we didn't make them do that because we're like, no, we're like, we'll go get ourselves. So that and like like that's a perfect example that they actually try to like go out their way and actually try to look for ways to make money when there was no jobs at all. So if you take all these government assistance and all of these things and start charging people like for housing, I I'm not too sure, but I believe that they didn't have to pay for rent for a couple of months or something like that,
Ooh.
or during this pandemic,
Oh
people
yeah,
who lived.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you cut all of that, these people are gonna have to go out there and look for jobs or go look for find ways to make money, whether it be like, picking up cans or like, putting them in the deposit machine or, whatever. But they're gonna go out there and look for something because they're not gonna have the assistance that they need. And my parents also view it as something bad. They were actually happy when Trump came in because as much as he was called a racist and everything because of what he said during his campaign at the beginning, this guy actually was starting to do good things that you actually started seeing it because a lot of my parents' friends lost a lot of food stamp support and because I don't know what order Trump signed. No, I'm not too like familiar with that, but he was cutting off food stamps and all that and all these kind of supports for these people. And my parents were actually like, "Yo, that's a good thing," because some of these people, like I said, they're wearing Jordans, they're wearing expensive clothes, and they have cars, they don't really need them, and and they're on food stamps and they're like on housing, they're getting all this government assistance, but for what? They don't need it. It's just that they've become lazy and because now my dad makes decent money, he notices it in his checks that a lot of money is coming out from his checks, and he knows some of it goes back into these, to pay for these things. Someone always has to pay for it. It's not free. So that's why he was like he was like kind of he was like favoring and supporting Trump because it was like this guy's actually trying to cut back some of these things that are actually making people lazy, and it's the truth. And this whole thing about, oh, I need it, like how they say that millionaires or like people with a lot of money, they're never satisfied, like they just want to make more or something. There's this stereotype that they just want more and more and more. Same thing goes with government assistance. The more they get, the more they want. They're never satisfied. Like
Yeah, I mean that's
at,
minimum wage right there.
yeah, first they wanted food stamps. Okay, they got food stamps. Then they want like like cheaper rent, so they created housing. They're still not happy with that. Oh, we want to raise minimum wage. They raise minimum wage. They're still not happy. The problem is that these aren't the issues. Like by increasing minimum wage, everything goes up in price. Do you remember when the transportation, the MTA, was like a dollar 25?
Mhm.
Now we're up to close to $3. Why? Because they raised minimum wage. If minimum wage increases, they simply just increase the prices of everything. So there's never like a balance. So people are just gonna keep begging for more because they're gonna feel the same, and they keep blaming it on the race issue and because they feel oppressed. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that they feel that way because they got so used to this assistance that it's literally like a drug, bro. You know how you get addicted to drugs, like people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, like where the government assistance is literally like a drug. If they got a little bit of government assistance and they started like it, they just want more and more and more. Like, no, I need more help. I need more help. No, they even complain when they gotta pay for like when the guy at the grocery store La Bodega doesn't want to take their wick, and cover the milk. They're complaining over $4. I'm like, dude, it's just freaking $4. Just pay for the milk. You really want the milk? Oh no, but and they'll engage in a like 10-minute conversation arguing why their wick covers the milk, and then you have the bodega guy making a call like no, it doesn't cover it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Dude, it's just $4. So you see, it's like a drug that it makes them feel like they're entitled for those $4. Like they complain about it. And man, I feel like that's just the only solution. Just take away all the help from them and
So you'll
they're
be
gonna have to do
racist.
something else.
You'll be racist if you did that.
Nah, dude, it's crazy. I feel like
But
they just got to remove all of that because it's just making people more lazy and they're just not never going to be satisfied. They just want more and more and more, you know?
what do you think about bringing up minimum wage? What do you think about minimum wage and why specific jobs pay minimum wage and how minimum wage is a scam?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a scam. Minimum wage is a scam because it's this false promise that by them raising the minimum wage, you're going to be better off, but you're not. Why? Because by increasing minimum wage, they just increase everything else. So it's like I said earlier, there's never really a balance. So it's a scam because it's basically feeding you an illusion. Oh, minimum wage. When they said they were going to raise minimum wage to $15, people were so happy. Yay, it's going to be $15. Like, yeah, I'm going to be richer now. I'm going to have more money now. No, that's not true. It's not going to happen. Why? Rent is going to increase. Everything is going to increase. Like, just in New York, like you can't no longer get an apartment or like a studio for less than $1,000. Everything is like 1,500 now. And back in the day, it was like 800, 700. Now you can't even get that. The gallon of milk went from $2 to close to $4, three something. Transportation, $1 something to two something. And it just goes on and on and on. Like, so it's a scam. And I think it's a scam to also make people not want to work harder because they're waiting for that minimum wage. They want to stay where they are because they're like, oh, they're going to increase the minimum wage. I don't need to like, work harder, like get a second job or get out of this current job and try to get something better because they're going to increase the minimum wage. It's all an illusion that
But,
it's going to make their lives better.
but minimum wage, why do you think certain jobs have minimum wage? As in like let's say what is a minimum wage job right now? Like someone let's say someone who works at McDonald's. Why don't you think McDonald's pays them more?
Because anyone could do it. It's not
Okay.
like a skill. It doesn't take a skill. Anyone could do it. Like for example, if you're a real chef or real cook, minimum wage doesn't exist there. Like you could be a chef and making $30 an hour because that actually requires skill. But working at McDonald's and all these like fast food or even like Target, those aren't skills. You're just folding clothes. You're just basically the eggs are already pre-made. I believe from my aunt told me she was a manager in one of these McDonald's. Though actually the one by 37th Street, 38th Street. She was a manager at one point, and she told me they will get like gallons and they just pour the egg out like in the liquid, and then it'll just come out round. Like they'll have like little
Hmm.
like circle things to give them the shape. So there's no skill required there. They're not like actually cooks. They just literally throw it into the little microwave, and it comes out. They stack it up, so they fold it. So of course that's gonna be a minimum wage. It doesn't require skill, and I think that's the reason why these jobs exist. That the minimum wage jobs are the ones that don't really require skills. The ones that require skills, they're they're actually not minimum wage. They actually ask for more money. Like, you can't have a McDonald's employee comparing himself to like an actual chef, like someone who works like a legit restaurant. Why? Because the guy from the legit restaurant actually prepares everything, the ingredients and everything. So of course he deserves his $20, $18 an hour, even $30, because they're actually prepping stuff from scratch. But McDonald's people, that's already prepared. Like, all they gotta do is just heat it up. Like, it's not really a skill. But so I think these are the type of jobs that are minimum wage, the ones that don't, require much skill. Like, they're just.
No, I definitely agree. Well, so as a successful, well, I would consider you a successful Mexican immigrant. What do you have to say to the minority community or other Mexicans or whatever minority community you choose to direct the message to? What would you say to them to become successful before we end this podcast?
I would say to, first of all, if you're watching too much TV news, stop watching it. That's only toxic. It only makes you feel like they're trying to make you feel like you're oppressed, that you're a minority. They even label you that. Just stop that. Do you, whatever you want to do, go for it. Don't let other, mainstream media or whatever, like, people are saying, get to your head and like make you feel like you don't deserve it. You're not, just work hard for it. And also learn how to save up, because once you learn how to save up, and it doesn't matter how much you make, it matters how much you save up, and how you invest it. And how you invest is what's gonna, make you financial free, which is what we're all aiming at for.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks, Christian, for being here, and we'll talk another time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.